I think the Google situation is kind of insane, and we're going to get into that. What Google has done to kind of compete with OpenAI, Anthropic, SpaceX, all at the same time, but not necessarily compete directly with their AI. So I'm going to get into that, give you a quick market update as well, and sort of show you what's moving and why, and kind of what is even going on with that. Before I begin, I must remind you this is a financial education presentation. You must do your own due diligence before acting on anything you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer information can be found at ankerstarwealth.com and is expressed our mind alone. You have the S&P 500 flat, but look at this. The Dow Jones up 1% and NASDAQ down 1%. I'm just going to jump over to show you exactly what is going on. We have a massive breadth day today, and yet the S&P 500 is down. So you've got financials doing great, healthcare, consumer cyclical, comm services, software is doing okay. But this is the semiconductor world, and the semiconductors are going to move the market if they're going up or down. Correlations is what they call it, how correlated the S&P 500 is to all the constituents. Correlations are very low right now because so much is being determined just by semiconductors, computer hardware, semiconductor equipment. And actually last night, Broadcom made the fatal mistake of not raising their semiconductor guidance for their next quarter when they released earnings. And so you see the stock down 15%. That is the thin ice that these companies are on. And, you know, I mentioned yesterday, it's like that tightrope, right? Who's going to blink first? And so I guess last night, Broadcom did kind of blink. NVIDIA, though, notably holding on pretty strong. All right. What's going on with Google? Before I can tell you that, the story actually starts with SpaceX. So SpaceX is going public next week. We expect that their first day of trading will be next Friday. And if I had to guess, the folks facilitating this are going to manufacture, even if it needs to be done in an inorganic way, they're going to manufacture a pop on that stock, especially during the first day of trading. And then as time goes on, they'll have a little bit less influence over that. But on that first day, I'm expecting them to manufacture a pop. If I had to guess, my guess is that the stock is going to open in the 160s per share, even though they're raising money right now at 135. So that's just my guess. We will see what happens with that. And look how cool. I mean, come on. How could you not how could you see that picture and not want to own that stock at least a little bit? I mean, that is just a sight to see right there. That's really cool. So what has SpaceX done with this IPO? Well, SpaceX is run by Elon Musk, and Elon Musk actually started OpenAI. He provided money to get that thing off the ground way back when, and since was kind of kicked out and, started feuding with Sam Altman, the person who runs OpenAI. We've seen that. There's the lawsuits and all that. Elon recognized that, one, the stock market is at all-time highs. It's doing great. Not only is that, but there's like a specific, as we just saw, there's a specific interest in semiconductor data centers, that entire part of the market. And as a result, investors are willing to put a lot of money on the line right now in those areas. So, of course, Elon is a genius with capital raising, running monies, things like that, or capital raising and running successful various companies. Again, they're not as profitable as some investors would like, but you can't argue with what they've done. The innovation element is just really unique for him, and that's why people like him. But he recognized this hunger among investors and this enthusiasm, and so he tried to be the first one to IPO his private company, which has XAI in it, which is his AI, LLM, his competitor in the space. And he wanted to raise $75 billion in doing this. And he will. He'll do it next week. So they're going to get $75 billion of fresh cash that they can use then to go and compete in the AI space, compete against OpenAI. And this does two things. One, it gives them the ammunition to compete against OpenAI. But two, if they're the first ones there, they guarantee that they get the money, whereas OpenAI may not. The environment could change. Investors' enthusiasm could change. That happens all the time. People used to love Netflix stock, right? And now they hate it. And people used to hate Micron stock, and now they love it. I mean, so investor enthusiasm changes, and Elon recognizes that. So he wanted to beat OpenAI to ensure that he gets maximum enthusiasm. Maybe OpenAI does too, maybe they don't. And so if they don't, that gives him a competitive advantage over OpenAI. Well, as soon as this happened, as soon as OpenAI started pursuing this, Anthropic, as soon as SpaceX started pursuing this, Anthropic and OpenAI both started racing to come public themselves. So then it became this weird thing of, okay, if SpaceX is going to raise 75 billion and OpenAI is going to raise 80 or 100 billion, or Anthropic's going to raise 80 to 100 billion, let's just say round number, let's just say 300 billion in fresh money that's going to need to go to these companies from public markets. There started to be this question, can the stock market actually come up with a fresh $300 billion to give them? And obviously time will tell. Nobody knows that answer. But this was all taking place. And of course, SpaceX was winning the race. SpaceX is going to be the first one. They go public next week. But then Google's watching from the sideline. Google, of course, competes in the AI space. They've got their AI competitor, Gemini. They've got other things as well for on the video side, etc., and probably on the agent side. There's a lot going on there. But Google's watching from the sideline, and they see what SpaceX has done, and they started to think, you know what? I wonder if we could kind of do the same thing, but no one sees us coming. So earlier this week, Google announced, and I'm going to show you the PDF. If we're going all the way to a PDF, something crazy is going on. But Google announced that they are going to raise a fresh 80 billion. Billion? Kind of, but they could come up with it elsewhere if they needed to or if they had to. What they're doing is, though, they're going to public markets to get this 80 billion, and if you look a little closer here, they're actually getting 10 billion from big pocket Berkshire Hathaway, which is really nothing for Berkshire Hathaway. Berkshire Hathaway has about 400 billion in cash right now. 10 billion is nothing. Berkshire Hathaway already owns about 20 billion in Google stock. So another 10 billion for them, it just makes sense, right? They need those. Berkshire's $1 trillion company. They need Google to eventually probably be about a $50 billion position just for it to even matter. So, okay, another 10 billion coming from Berkshire. That's great. Also, Berkshire paid less than market price. So Berkshire, I think Google gave them a special price of about 350 on their Class A shares. And then they also have some of the other class shares, but Berkshire, because of what Berkshire does, they can typically get better deals than I can get in the market or other public market people. They're not going to just give 10 billion guaranteed for the same value that somebody out there throwing $1,000 is, right? So what Google is doing at the market, though, so truly in public markets, is going to be 40 billion. Now, this is a lot of money that investors are going to have to shell out to Google, and presumably Google has already started this process. So they are absorbing liquidity from the market. They're actually front-running SpaceX. SpaceX thought they were front-running everyone else, but Google is front-running even SpaceX to some extent. And this will probably pressure Google's stock price. But again, things are so enthusiastic right now, it's not going to pressure the stock price as much as it would during some downturn. So Google is saying, I'm going to go out and grab 40 billion from public markets as well before OpenAI, before Anthropic, and maybe even some before SpaceX. So what does this do? Google guarantees also, they see what SpaceX has done. They guarantee that they're going to get maximum enthusiasm as well. SpaceX comes next week. And from a competitive standpoint, if Google can soak up enthusiasm and liquidity from the market in such a way that when OpenAI and Anthropic eventually do come public later this year, whatever, if they can do that to an extent where enthusiasm or liquidity has waned, has started to soften when those other companies come public, what does it do? It hurts OpenAI and it hurts Anthropic. So this is good for Google and potentially hurtful to OpenAI and Anthropic, who desperately need the money, whereas Google doesn't desperately need the money in quite the same way. So I kind of think this is genius. I kind of think it's insane. Google hasn't sold stock like this since 2002 or something. It's been forever since they've done this, but they recognize what SpaceX has recognized, and they're kind of even front-running SpaceX and jumping to the front of the line to do so. What do you think? Do you think this is a smart move by Google? Of course, it is diluting Google shareholders a bit, but the idea that they can capture this right here, right now, and potentially limit or hurt what OpenAI and Anthropic can do, I really do think it's kind of insane and kind of genius at the same time. Hey, I hope everyone has a wonderful day out there, and we'll see what happens. Are semiconductors are they gonna flatten out a bit here, hold steady? Will they come roaring back? That'll be something we'll watch in the coming days. All right, hope everyone has a wonderful day, and of course, look forward to talking to you soon.